What would you do if your roommate's tarot predictions kept coming true because she was secretly orchestrating them? I should have known something was wrong the moment I saw Irma's apartment listing. $750 a month for a room in the city, utilities included, available immediately. In a market where studio apartments started at $2,000, it was too good to be true. But I was 3 weeks into my new job at a tech startup, living out of an extended stay motel that was bleeding my savings dry at $90 a night, and I was desperate. The apartment was in a converted Victorian in the older part of downtown, the kind of building with high ceilings and creaky hardwood floors that real estate agents call charming. Irma Morales answered the door wearing a flowing purple cardigan over black leggings, her dark hair pulled back in a loose bun. She was maybe 30, with kind eyes and a warm smile that immediately put me at ease. "Welcome, you must be Clara," she said, stepping aside to let me in. The apartment smelled like sage and something floral I couldn't quite place. The living room was exactly what you'd expect from someone who advertised themselves as a professional tarot reader. Tapestries hung on the walls, crystals clustered on every available surface, and in the corner sat a small table draped in dark velvet with a deck of ornate cards placed precisely in the center. Candles lined the mantelpiece above a decorative fireplace. "I do readings from home," Irma explained, noticing my gaze. "Mostly online clients through video calls, but occasionally in person." "I hope that's not too weird for you." "Not at all," I lied. I didn't believe in any of that stuff, tarot or astrology or crystal healing. But I also didn't care what my roommate did for a living as long as I had a place to sleep that didn't cost $3,000 a month. The bedroom she showed me was small but clean, with a window overlooking the street and enough space for my bed and desk. The shared bathroom was dated but functional. The kitchen was tiny, barely room for one person, but Irma assured me she mostly ordered takeout anyway. "I work weird hours," she said, leaning against the kitchen doorframe. "Sometimes I have clients late at night, early morning. I try to keep quiet, but the floors creak. Will that bother you?" "I'm a pretty heavy sleeper," I told her. "And honestly, I'll probably be working late most nights anyway. I just started at Crawford and Associates." "Oh, the tech firm," Irma's eyes lit up. "That's exciting. New beginnings, fresh starts. Very powerful energy." I nodded, trying not to roll my eyes. "Yeah, it's a great opportunity." "Would you like me to do a reading for you?" she offered suddenly. "Free of charge, of course. A welcome to the apartment gift. I could give you some insight into how this new chapter will unfold." "That's really nice, but I should probably get back to." I started to decline, but something in her expression stopped me. There was an eagerness there, almost a hunger, that made me uncomfortable. But I also needed this apartment. $750 a month. I couldn't afford to be picky. "Sure, why not?" "Wonderful," Irma clapped her hands together. "Let's do it right now." She led me to the velvet-covered table and gestured for me to sit. The cards she used were beautiful, hand-painted with intricate designs that must have cost a fortune. She shuffled them with practiced ease, her fingers moving in fluid motions that suggested years of repetition. "Think about your question," she instructed. "What do you want to know about your future?" "I don't really have a specific question," I admitted. "Then we'll do a general reading. Past, present, future. What's behind you? What's with you now? What's coming?" She laid out 3 cards face down, then flipped them one by one. The first showed a figure walking away from 8 cups, the second depicted 2 people exchanging cups beneath a caduceus, and the third, I noticed with an involuntary shiver, showed a tower being struck by lightning, people falling from its windows. "Interesting," Irma murmured, studying the spread. "You've recently left something behind, something that no longer served you." "The 8 of Cups." "That tracks with your cross-country move, yes." "I suppose," I said noncommittally. "The 2 of Cups in the present position suggests a new partnership or connection forming. Perhaps a friendship, perhaps something more." "And the future," she paused, her finger hovering over the Tower card. "Upheaval. Sudden change. The structures you've built or are building will be tested. There may be a collapse before reconstruction can begin." "Sounds ominous." I tried to laugh it off. "The cards don't lie, Clara," Irma said seriously. "But they also don't doom you to any particular fate. They're warnings, guidance. If you see the tower coming, you can prepare. You can survive the fall. Great, I said, standing up. Well, thanks for the reading. Should we talk about move-in dates? I moved in 3 days later. The first week was fine, almost pleasant. Irma was quiet, respectful of my space, and her client sessions were indeed barely audible through my closed bedroom door. I fell into a routine quickly, up at 7, at the office by 8:30, home by 7 or 8 in the evening, exhausted from trying to prove myself in a new job where everyone seemed to know more than me. Then small things started going wrong. First, my bank card stopped working. I was at the coffee shop near my office, trying to buy my usual morning latte, when the card reader declined 3 times in a row. Embarrassed, I checked my banking app and found my checking account had a balance of $12.37. That was impossible. I'd had nearly $4,000 in it just 2 days ago. I called the bank immediately, my hands shaking as I explained that there must be some mistake. The representative put me on hold for what felt like an eternity, then came back with news that made my stomach drop. There had been 3 large transfers to an online payment service over the past 48 hours, totaling $3,800. I didn't make those transfers, I insisted. The representative's voice was sympathetic but firm. The transfers were authenticated with your password and security questions, ma'am. We'll need to open a fraud investigation, but that can take 30 to 45 days. 30 to 45 days. I had rent due in 2 weeks, student loan payments, groceries to buy. I felt dizzy. When I got home that evening, Irma was in the living room arranging crystals in some kind of pattern on the coffee table. "Clara, you look terrible," she said, looking up. "Is everything okay?" I told her about the bank account, my voice cracking. She listened with what seemed like genuine concern, then shook her head slowly. "The tower," she said quietly. "It's beginning." "What?" "You're reading. The tower card. I told you there would be upheaval, structures collapsing. I'm so sorry, Clara. I should have warned you more clearly. This isn't some cosmic prediction," I snapped, exhausted and scared. "Someone stole my money. That's just regular crime, not destiny." Irma held up her hands in a placating gesture. Of course. I didn't mean to suggest otherwise. I worry about you. This is such a stressful time. Is there anything I can do to help?" The investigation took 6 weeks, not 45 days, and in the end the bank restored most of my money. But by then, other things had started happening. My boss, Michael Hayes, called me into his office on a Wednesday morning. "Clara, we need to talk about the Richardson project," he said, his expression serious. The Richardson project was my first major assignment, a database restructuring for a mid-sized client. I've been working on it for 3 weeks, staying late almost every night to get it right. "There are some concerns about the quality of your work," Michael continued. "James from the development team says you've been missing deadlines and the code you submitted yesterday had multiple critical errors." "That's not possible," I said, my mouth going dry. "I tested everything twice. I know that code was clean." Michael turned his monitor toward me. On the screen was my submission from the previous day, and he was right, it was a mess. Functions calling variables that didn't exist, syntax errors that should have thrown immediate flags, logic loops that made no sense. But I hadn't written that code. I couldn't have. I was good at my job, careful, detail-oriented. "I don't understand," I whispered. "This isn't what I submitted." "Clara," Michael's voice was kind but firm. "I know you've been under a lot of stress. The move, settling into a new city, financial troubles. Emma from HR mentioned you'd been dealing with some banking fraud. Maybe you're taking on too much too fast." Emma from HR. I'd mentioned the bank situation to her in passing, just explaining why I needed to leave early one day to deal with the investigation. "How did Michael know about it?" "I can fix this," I said desperately. "Give me 24 hours, I'll rewrite everything." "Take the rest of the week," Michael said. "Get some rest. Come back Monday with a clear head. We'll reassess then." I went home early, my mind racing. In my room, I pulled up my laptop and checked my local files. The version I had saved was perfect, exactly as I remembered writing it. Someone had changed the code after I submitted it. But how? And why? That evening, I heard Irma on the phone in the living room. "Yes, it's progressing exactly as the cards predicted," she was saying, her voice lower than usual. "The financial crisis, now professional humiliation. The tower is crumbling right on schedule." I froze in my doorway, listening. "No, she doesn't suspect anything," Irma continued. "She thinks it's just bad luck. By the time she realizes, it'll be too late. The final card is already chosen." My heart was pounding so hard I thought she might hear it. I crept back into my room and closed the door as quietly as possible. Was Irma talking about me? It had to be about a client, right? There was no way she could be involved in what was happening to me. But the doubt, once planted, grew roots. I started paying attention to details I'd previously ignored. The way Irma always seemed to be home when I left in the morning and when I returned at night. The fact that she'd asked for my work schedule during our first week living together. The times I'd come home to find my bedroom door slightly ajar when I was certain I'd closed it. One night, I pretended to go to bed early but instead sat in the dark of my room with my door cracked open. Around 11, I heard Irma's bedroom door open and the soft pad of her footsteps in the hallway. They stopped outside my room. I held my breath, watching through the crack as her shadow fell across my doorway. She stood there for almost 5 minutes, not moving, not speaking. Then, finally, she walked away toward the living room. I waited 15 minutes before creeping out after her. The living room was dark except for the candles lit on her reading table. Irma sat with her back to me, cards spread in front of her. "The timeline is perfect," she murmured to herself. "2 more weeks and the final phase begins. The death card never lies." I must have made a sound because she turned suddenly. "Clara, what are you doing up?" "I couldn't sleep," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What are you doing?" "Just a midnight reading," she smiled, but there was something off about it. Something that didn't reach her eyes. "For a client in a different time zone. At midnight. Some people keep unusual hours," she said, beginning to gather up her cards. "You should get back to bed. You look exhausted." "Who are you talking to?" I asked. "Talking to? Just now. I heard you talking." Irma's smile faltered for just a second. "I was reading aloud. I often do that. It helps me interpret the cards." "Why, did it bother you?" "No," I lied. "Sorry, I'm just stressed about work. Good night." I went back to my room, but I didn't sleep. Instead, I started searching online for information about Irma Morales. Her professional website was polished but vague, offering tarot readings and spiritual guidance with testimonials from satisfied clients. But when I dug deeper, searching through social media and public records, I found something that made my blood run cold. 3 different women had lived at this address in the past 3 years, each for only 2 or 3 months. I found their names on old online profiles and apartment hunting forums. Sofia Garcia had posted about a great affordable room in a vintage building 2 years ago, excited about her new start in the city. 8 weeks later, she posted again looking for emergency housing after what she called a devastating series of personal crises. The post was deleted shortly after. Valentina Reed had mentioned the apartment in a Twitter thread about finding housing as a young professional. Her account went silent 3 months later. The last post was a rambling thread about feeling like she was losing her mind, that someone was sabotaging her life but she couldn't prove it. Naomi Foster had listed the address in a LinkedIn profile as her residence while working at a marketing firm downtown. Her employment at the firm ended abruptly after only 2 months, and her entire social media presence disappeared shortly after. 3 women. 3 short-term tenancies. 3 lives apparently derailed. I had to get out. The next morning, I started looking for new apartments. I called my parents and asked if they could loan me money for first and last month's rent somewhere else. They were concerned, asking questions I didn't want to answer because I didn't want them to think I was paranoid or unstable. I told them I just needed a change, that the apartment wasn't a good fit. My father said he could transfer $2,000 by the end of the week. It wasn't enough for most places, but it was something. That evening, Irma knocked on my bedroom door. "I've been thinking about you," she said. "About your reading. Would you like me to do another one to check on how the energies are shifting?" "No, thank you," I said firmly. "I'm actually going to be looking for a new place soon. This isn't really working out for me." Her expression flickered, something dark passing behind her eyes before the pleasant smile returned. "Oh, that's sudden. Is there a problem?" "Not a problem. I think I need my own space." "You know." "I understand," Irma said slowly. "Of course, you need to give 30 days notice per the lease agreement. That takes us to the end of next month." The lease agreement. I'd been so desperate to move in that I'd barely skimmed it before signing. 30 days. 4 more weeks trapped here with whatever Irma was doing. "Of course," I said. "I'll start packing." The next day at work, Michael called me into his office again. "Clara, we need to discuss your performance." I'd spent the weekend redoing the Richardson project, triple-checking every line of code, testing it exhaustively. I'd submitted what I knew was flawless work. "I'm afraid there have been additional complaints," Michael said. "Not just about the quality of your work, but about your behavior. James says you've been hostile toward him, making accusations. Emma mentioned you've been paranoid about people accessing your files. And your project manager says you've missed 3 team meetings in the past week." "I haven't missed any meetings," I protested. "And I haven't been hostile to anyone." Michael pulled out his phone and showed me screenshots of aggressive emails allegedly sent from my work address. The language was vicious, accusatory, completely unlike anything I would write. But there was my name, my email signature. "I didn't send those," I said, my voice rising. "Someone is accessing my account, changing my work, framing me." "Clara," Michael's voice was gentle, pitying. "I think you need to take some time off. Paid leave, just for a few weeks. Maybe talk to someone about the stress you're under." "Someone is sabotaging me," I insisted, but even as I said it, I could hear how it sounded. Paranoid. Unhinged. Exactly how Irma probably wanted me to sound. "Take the time off," Michael said. "We'll discuss your future here when you're feeling better." I packed up my desk in a daze, avoiding the concerned looks from my coworkers. When I got home, Irma was waiting in the living room with her cards spread on the table. "I saw in the cards that you'd have a difficult day," she said softly. "I'm so sorry, Clara. The tower's collapse is so hard to witness." "It's you," I said, my voice shaking. "You're doing this to me." Irma tilted her head, her expression concerned. "Clara, you're not sounding well. Perhaps you should lie down. You sabotaged my bank account. You hacked my work email. You're trying to destroy my life." "Those are very serious accusations," Irma said, standing up. "And very concerning coming from someone who's clearly under extreme stress. I think I should call someone. Your family, perhaps. Or your employer, let them know you're having some kind of episode." "Don't touch your phone," I warned, but she was already pulling it out. "Michael Hayes, please," she said when someone answered. "This is Irma Morales, Clara Bennett's roommate. I'm calling because I'm very concerned about her mental state. She's making paranoid accusations, seems to be having some kind of breakdown. I thought you should know." She listened for a moment, nodding. "Yes, she's been under tremendous stress. I've been trying to help, but she's refusing support. Thank you for understanding. Yes, I'll keep a close eye on her." She hung up and looked at me with mock sympathy. "Your boss agrees you need help, Clara. He's going to have HR reach out about some resources. Employee assistance programs, therapists who specialize in stress-related issues." I felt the walls closing in. Irma had just painted me as unstable to my employer. Anything I said now would be filtered through that lens. I was trapped, not by locks or bars, but by carefully constructed evidence of my own instability. "I need to get out of here," I said, heading for the door. "Of course," Irma said smoothly. "Take a walk, clear your head. But remember, you signed a lease. 30 days notice. 3 more weeks. 3 more weeks." I couldn't survive 3 more weeks of this. I went to a coffee shop and tried to think clearly. I needed evidence. Real, concrete proof that Irma was behind everything. But how? She was too careful, too practiced. This wasn't her first time doing this. Then I remembered the 3 previous roommates. If I could find them, talk to them, maybe together we could prove a pattern. I spent hours tracking down contact information, finding Sofia Garcia on Facebook, Valentina Reed through a professional networking site, piecing together what had happened to Naomi Foster through archived social media posts. I sent messages to Sofia and Valentina, explaining briefly that I was Irma's current roommate and experiencing something similar to what they described in their posts. Please contact me, I wrote. I think she's dangerous. Sofia responded within an hour. We need to talk in person. Not over any digital platform. Can you meet tomorrow? We met at a diner across town. Sofia was in her late 20s, with tired eyes that suggested she hadn't slept well in a long time. Valentina joined us, looking equally haunted. It started small for me, Sofia said. Little things going wrong. Lost items, missed appointments. Then my identity was stolen, my credit cards maxed out. I lost my job because someone was sending insane emails from my account. By the time I put it together that it was Irma, I couldn't prove anything. She'd covered her tracks perfectly. I had a breakdown, ended up hospitalized for 3 days. That's when I finally got out of the apartment. Same for me, Valentina nodded. Everything fell apart in 8 weeks. My relationship, my job, my savings. And when I tried to tell people it was Irma, they thought I was crazy. She'd already called my boss, my boyfriend, my parents, expressing concern about my mental health. She built a narrative where I was unstable and paranoid, and by the time I realized what she was doing, everyone believed her version. Did you go to the police? I asked. Both women shook their heads. No evidence, Sofia said bitterly. Nothing that could be traced back to her. She's too smart. And by the time we got out, we just wanted to forget. Move on. Rebuild. What about Naomi Foster? I asked. The 2 women exchanged glances. We don't know what happened to Naomi, Valentina said slowly. She just disappeared from social media after her time with Irma. We tried to find her, but there's nothing. No online presence, no recent activity anywhere. Do you think Irma? I couldn't finish the sentence. We don't know, Sofia said. But we know she's dangerous. Whatever she's doing, it's not just about making predictions come true. It's something darker. I told them about the phone conversation I'd overheard, about the final card. They both went pale. You need to get out now, Valentina said urgently. Forget the 30 days notice. Just pack up and leave. I don't have anywhere to go, I admitted. My job put me on leave, my family is across the country, and I'm almost broke. Then stay with one of us, Sofia offered immediately. I have a couch. It's not much, but it's safe. Relief flooded through me. Thank you, I said. I'll come tonight. But when I got back to the apartment to pack my things, I found Irma sitting on my bed, surrounded by boxes. My boxes. The ones I'd left empty in my closet, planning to use them for moving. I took the liberty of starting your packing, she said calmly. Since you seemed so eager to leave. Get out of my room, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. This is my apartment, Clara. Irma stood up, and for the first time I saw her without the mask of kindness. Her expression was cold, calculating. Everything in it belongs to me. Including you, for the next 3 weeks. I'm leaving tonight, I said. Keep the deposit, I don't care. I don't think you are, Irma said, pulling out her phone. You see, I've already made some calls. Your parents are very worried about you. I spoke with them an hour ago, told them about your paranoid delusions, your accusations against me, your deteriorating mental state. They're actually flying in tomorrow to stage an intervention. They think you might need to be hospitalized. No, I whispered. And your new friends, Sofia and Valentina. The ones you met with today. I texted them from your phone explaining that you decided to work on your issues with a professional therapist and won't be needing their help after all. They think you're getting the help you need. She'd anticipated everything. Every move I might make, she'd already countered. "Why are you doing this?" I asked desperately. Irma smiled, and it was the coldest thing I'd ever seen. "Because fate is real, Clara. Destiny exists. And I am its instrument. When I lay out the cards, when I predict the future, I'm not guessing. I'm declaring what will be. And then I make it happen. Every single time. The cards never lie because I never let them lie." "You're insane," I said. "No," Irma corrected. "I'm inevitable. Do you want to know what your final cards were?" "The ones I pulled the day you moved in. The Tower, for the collapse of everything you've built. The Devil, for the bondage and entrapment you can't escape. And death. Not literal death, necessarily. But the death of who you were. By the time I'm done, Clara Bennett as she exists today will be gone. And something new, something broken, will take her place. Just like Sophia. Just like Valentina. Just like Naomi." "Where is Naomi?" I demanded. Irma's smile widened. "Naomi pulled the death card too. But her death was more literal. She wouldn't accept her fate, kept fighting even after I'd destroyed her life. So I had to make the prediction come true more permanently. Don't worry, it looked like suicide. Everyone believed it because I'd already established her mental instability. She'd killed someone. I was living with a murderer. I tried to run for the door, but Irma was faster, blocking my path. The apartment's smart locks, I'd set them to my phone. You can't leave without my permission. And I'm not giving it." She was right. I heard the electronic locks engage, the heavy click of bolts sliding into place. Every window had the same smart lock system. I was sealed in. "My parents are coming tomorrow," I said. "They'll know something's wrong. They'll see exactly what I show them," Irma said. "A daughter in crisis, being cared for by a concerned roommate. They'll probably thank me. Maybe even agree that hospitalization is the best option. A nice long stay in a psychiatric facility while I finalize everything. By the time you get out, if you get out, no one will believe a word you say." She pulled out her tarot cards, shuffling them slowly. "One last reading, Clara. To see how your story ends." I watched in horror as she laid out 3 cards. The Tower. The Devil. Death. "Fate is inevitable," she whispered. "The cards never lie." But Irma had made one mistake. In her confidence, in her need to explain her twisted philosophy, she'd confessed to murder in an apartment where she'd installed extensive surveillance equipment to monitor me. Equipment that included cameras and audio recording that fed to cloud storage. My laptop was still on my desk, its webcam active, its microphone recording. And I'd left my phone's voice recorder running when I'd gone to meet Sophia and Valentina, a precaution I'd taken just in case I needed proof of my own sanity. I had evidence now. Real, undeniable evidence. "You're right," I said quietly. "Fate is inevitable. But you're not fate, Irma. You're just a woman who's made terrible choices. And every choice has consequences." Her smile faltered slightly. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that you just confessed to murder on camera." I gestured to my laptop. "And that confession is already backed up to cloud storage that you can't access or delete." Irma's face went white. She lunged for my laptop, but I was ready, grabbing it and holding it against my chest. "The recording is already saved," I said. "It uploaded automatically. And I sent the access information to Sophia and Valentina before I came home. If anything happens to me, they have instructions to send everything to the police." I hadn't actually done that, but Irma didn't know that. She stood frozen, her carefully constructed control crumbling. "Unlock the doors," I said. "Now." For a long moment, she didn't move. Then, slowly, she pulled out her phone and tapped the screen. I heard the locks disengage. "This isn't over," she said, but her voice shook. "Yes, it is," I replied. "Because I'm walking out of here, and then I'm going to the police. And you're going to face actual fate, not the fake version you've been orchestrating. Real consequences for real crimes." I grabbed my essentials, stuffed them in a bag, and walked out of that apartment. I didn't look back. The police investigation took 6 months. My recordings, combined with testimony from Sophia and Valentina, and eventually evidence they found in Irma's apartment, were enough. They found Naomi Foster's belongings in Irma's closet, along with items from 8 other women we'd never even known about. 8 women whose lives had been destroyed, 8 boxes labeled with dates and cards and the words reading fulfilled. Irma was arrested and charged with fraud, identity theft, stalking, harassment, and murder. The trial lasted 3 weeks. She showed no remorse, even told the jury that she'd simply been proving a philosophical point about the nature of fate. The jury deliberated for 4 hours before finding her guilty on all counts. She was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole. I spent months rebuilding my life. My employer, once they understood what had happened, reinstated me with a formal apology. My bank account was restored. My reputation, slowly, was repaired. But the psychological scars took longer to heal. I still have nightmares sometimes about coming home to find Irma at her card table, laying out predictions that she'll force into reality. But then I wake up in my new apartment, in a building with regular locks and no smart home features, and I remind myself that she's gone. Locked away where she can't hurt anyone else. The cards never lie, Irma had said. But she was wrong. The cards said nothing. They were just pieces of cardboard with pretty pictures. It was Irma who lied, who manipulated, who destroyed. And in the end, she couldn't predict the one thing that brought her down. That I'd fight back. That I'd find proof. That her carefully constructed fate would crumble, and real justice would take its place. The tower she'd built, her kingdom of terror and control, collapsed just like the card predicted. But it was her tower that fell, not mine. I survived. I rebuilt. And every day I choose to believe not in fate or destiny or cards that lie, but in something simpler and more powerful. I believe in choices. Mine and everyone else's. The choice to fight back. The choice to help others. The choice to refuse to be a victim. Irma's in prison now, probably reading cards for other inmates, still convinced she's an instrument of fate. But her predictions don't come true anymore. Because fate isn't real. Just consequences. And she's finally facing hers.